huge thank you for all the team of eFounders for having us. I'm personally a huge fan of the eFounders family. At Intercom, we've got a ton of respect for the ecosystem that you guys are building in Paris. I'm also French, so I've got to do this presentation in English because we're recording. But yeah, being a French abroad, it's great to see what's happening right now around Paris between eFounders and Station F. I think you guys are really putting technology on the map for the rest of the world. So today we're going to be talking about customer acquisition and how we were able to scale from 1 to 50 million in less than 3 years at Intercom. It sounds like a crazy number. It sounds like from the outside it's easy, but it was a very, very long series of failure in order to achieve what we achieved. And we believe that we're just at the beginning of something even bigger. But before we start, if you want to tweet about this event, please use this very creative hashtag. Took a lot of time to come up with something original. Feel free also to tag us on Twitter if you want to stay in touch. We'd love to connect with all of you after this presentation. Yeah, so let's get started. Business Insider recently called us the second fastest software company in the industry, just behind our friends from Slack. In terms of numbers, we've got more than 25,000 paying customers, including most of the companies from eFounders, but also the likes of Spotify, Airbnb, IBM, Microsoft, Product Hunt, and so on. In terms of interesting numbers also, so we raised $115 million to date, and we grew from $1 to $50 million in 3 years. So how did we get there? So if you take a step back and if you're saying it doesn't really matter if you are in the B2B or B2C space, when you're thinking about user acquisition, you should think about the end-to-end journey. So usually what mistakes that entrepreneurs will be doing is that we focus too much on that part, on really acquiring new user. Today, acquiring user is easier than ever. So if you have the budget, you can blast advertising on Facebook, Twitter, Google, and LinkedIn in order to acquire thousands of users. But the hardest part is to keep them on your platform. If you think about the cost of acquiring a user between marketing, cost of sale, supporting them, and infrastructure, usually it will take you months, even years, before you get profitable. And that's what makes the difference between companies that will fly or companies that will die. And so that's what our founders from day one really focused on, making sure that we're going to grow slowly and we're going to acquire the right customers. So something that we did well from day one was to focus on speed, to really measure in a precise way our sales velocity. Later on, we'll talk about how we go deep in order to have different tactics, depending if you are Spotify or if you are an early stage company. So we provide a very personal onboarding, but for one part, we'll be leveraging a lot automation, and for the other one, we'll take our time. We'll go deep. We'll become a part of their team in order to do what's right for them. Also, we believe that the way sales is evolving is about to change very radically. If you take a retrospective over the past 30 years, most of the way of businesses, the way businesses were selling in the past, everything was done through direct mail. Then we evolved, and everything was done over the phone through telesales and telemarketing. And today, everything is done through mail. In fact, I was reading an article from the Wall Street Journal 3 days ago. They shared a very interesting number saying that more than 90% of businesses today rely on email marketing in order to grow their business. So we personally believe that this number is about to reduce, because if you look at, I'm sure if you look at how you're communicating with your friends, with your peers, and with your relatives, everything today is done through Messenger. And so we believe that it's time today to invest in messaging platform. If you look at how most B2B businesses are currently onboarding and acquiring inbound customers, we feel that it's completely disconnected from the way consumers want to engage with a brand or with a business. Traditional SaaS B2B company, you'll arrive on their website, you'll go to their pricing page, you'll have different plans. If you want to use one of them, you'll be redirected to a form that they will use for qualification in order to understand what's your budget, how many employees, what's the potential, and so on. When you click on next, that usually you receive a very impersonal, automated email saying that, thank you for your inquiry, we'll get back to you shortly, and you don't really know if shortly means 10 minutes or 10 hours. And that's what makes the difference between a good company and a bad company. It doesn't matter if you have the best product in the industry, if you're not there to grab the attention of your prospect and to really capture the intent of purchase when it's at its peak, that's when you're going to lose. And we can see that on a day-to-day. Great businesses with amazing product, but who are not growing because they still think with the old way of acquiring new customers. There is this great study made by actually a company from Paris. I think it might be in the room, but the guys from botnation.ai, they made a very interesting experiment. They contacted the 1,000 largest brands on Facebook. They sent them a message on Facebook Messenger asking them questions about their product, and they realized that actually only 78% of them, only 22% of them got back to them with an answer. And it took them more than 3 hours to get him back to them. Almost 80% just didn't care, didn't even reply, because it was not really important to them. And that's where there is a very big missed opportunity, and that's what we're going to fight over the next couple of years. Also, something that we invested a lot from day one was to build a community. I don't know if some of you attended to our events. I don't know if some of you are reading our blog or listening to our podcast. It takes time, it takes a lot of money to do it, but we believe that's the right way to build this base of followers because we strongly believe that people don't really care about what we build or what we do, but we believe that people care about our aspiration and the problems that we're trying to solve. And so we try to build a community around this problem and making sure that we're bringing people with us as we're trying to figure it out on how to solve this problem. And finally, so today we're going to be talking also on how we are using personal automation in order to grow our business. Onboarding and then keeping your user engaged is what really matters today. That's what makes the difference between a good and a bad company. But it's really time consuming, and also it costs a lot of money to have an army of account managers to be behind your dashboard and holding the hand of your user to guide them in order to get them to use multiple features or to keep them engaged when they're about to churn. On our side, we're leveraging a lot marketing automation in order to detect specific signals when one of our users is about to churn, or when we know that in order to achieve success on our platform, let's say with our product called Engage, we know that when someone is using Engage, start to activate automatic messages and smart campaign, we know that they are likely to stick around forever. Because we can, with this, only adopting these two features, we know that they're going to see the full power of our platform. So that's the type of tactics using some of our products, such as a product called VAM, that we keep people around, and every time we get new features, we guide them step by step in order to do it, without having someone from our team to do it face-to-face or over the phone. And if you think about a business that failed miserably because they neglected onboarding and they neglected keeping their user engaged, so my previous company, so 3 years ago I left Twitter in order to start my own company. We spent 9 months building an application called Pulp. When we launched, we were top product on Product Hunt. We had some very positive article in the Next Web and some other large publisher. We grew from 0 to 10,000 users within the first week, and after day 28, the application, our product was completely dead. Because our onboarding, we were getting a ton of download, but people were not converting into user, and more important, people were not sticking around. And this is what makes the difference between my company and then Zenly. For us, we use Zenly, probably the most spectacular and the most fantastic onboarding I've ever seen, and also in terms of all the little mechanisms that they put in place in order to keep people engaged, to get them to invite their friends in order to make sure that there will be this social network effect. And this is what makes the difference between a company that's building a great product and another one who's building a great product, but we think about retention and onboarding as a whole in order to make sure that people will stick around. So we grew from 1 to 50 million, we raised 115 million, but we made a ton of mistakes, and for those who've been attending to our event, you know that we're not afraid to share our failures, and we want to make sure that you guys will avoid them. But for this year, there's a ton of questions that we want to answer because it's still unclear. We're still trying to figure it out. It seems that we've got all the answer, but we're still small. We're still making baby step after baby step. We're a small team just to cover the EMEA region. We're only 20 people. We've got only one CSM, only one sales engineer. So a ton of things that we need to find, after making mistake after mistake, and being resilient. But some of the key questions that we want to address and find the answer are: what's the right balance between automation and human touch? When do you need to go all in order to make sure that you scale your business leveraging automation? Or when do you need to make sure that you provide the best experience and go deep in terms of personal and human interaction with one of your prospects? And right now, that's something that we think that we're close to find this answer. We still need to go a little bit deeper. How do we decrease cost of sales? Hiring great and talented salespeople as a cost. So how do you make sure that you're using the experience and you put them in front of the right customers? So that you don't take very senior rep in order to close some very small deal in a transactional fashion. Third point, also something we're going to cover tonight, it's how you should be thinking about outbounding. Most of our revenue is coming from inbound. We're lucky that we've got this super powerful marketing machines that drive a ton of leads to us. But we're trying to figure it out. How can we make outbounding work for us? Our mission is to make internet business personal, and we can't be seen blasting millions of spammy email to everybody, hoping that few of them will convert. So we're experimenting a lot at the moment. My team is almost like a laboratory where we're playing with video, with personal VAM, and so on, in order to make it work. And we've got some pretty cool stuff to show you later on. And finally, so how do we continue to grow this inbound revenue? So we've been growing, mainly working closely with early stage community. So we want to make sure that we're not going to drop the ball there. You guys are companies that made us successful in the first place. So we don't want to make the mistake of going up market too quickly, like most SaaS B2B companies, when they start to hire senior people. That's when you usually see them doing random shit like running Super Bowl ads when they're way too quickly. So what we want to achieve is making sure that we grow the ecosystem of early stage companies and keep them growing with us. And at the same time, plant some seed for the future with large companies like Spotify and Stripe and so on. So for that, so talking about inbound acquisition, so I'm going to pass the mic to Megan, and she's going to share with you some of our tricks and techniques on inbound acquisition.
So my name's Megan. I'm on the sales team at Intercom. Oh, wrong way.
No.
Amazing. This is my handle. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to pick up the conversation afterwards as well. So as I said, I'm on the sales team, work very closely with Stan and Will, but today I'm going to talk about inbound acquisition and how we actually acquire not only our really engaged and loyal community, but how we start to turn them into leads for our sales team. So when it comes to acquisition, particularly with inbound, we, like most companies, have a ton of different channels that we leverage and levers that we can pull. So some of those include like a powered by strategy. We do SEO, we run events. Of course, we do these kind of performance advertising campaigns as well. We'll touch on that. But what's really made us grow, and particularly in the first couple of years, has been our focus on content marketing. And I come from an advertising background myself. I've had a ton of marketing roles, and content marketing was never something that I felt particularly strong or confident about. And when I joined Intercom, I completely shifted gears and changed my opinion on content and inbound marketing. So what is it? Just to recap, it's creating content to help you grow your business. Sounds great, sounds easy, but it doesn't work most of the time. Definitely hasn't really worked in any company that I've worked for before. And it's typically seen as a nice to have, something that takes a lot of resource, that sometimes has very little reward. I used to make a joke with my old team whenever they would suggest running content campaigns, and I would send them this GIF. I just didn't see the return on it. I had never seen the return on it. But interestingly enough, and as Stan has mentioned, at Intercom, our inbound strategy in terms of content has been really, really powerful. And it's something that we've been doing literally since the day we were founded, since we were a 5-person company, and it's something that we've continued to do, and that's helped us have the sustained growth that we've seen within the past couple of years. So just to recap and maybe share with you some of the editorial and content channels that we have. We have a blog. I'm hoping this looks familiar to a few of you. I'll take that as a yes, hopefully. So this is our blog. It's the Inside Intercom blog, and we publish on this about 5 to 6 times a week with long-form articles. So in terms of numbers, we see about 200k page visits to this a month and about 100k unique visits. We talk about, core product areas, but we kind of focus on, as Stan mentioned, about the way that we think about our products, key learnings that we've had as a team. You'll never see us publishing about, we're Intercom, our product does this, this, and this, and you should buy it because it's amazing. It's about sharing our insight and kind of showing you how we think as an organization, and it's been critical to our growth and lead gen so far. As of late, and over the past couple of years, our podcast has been a really strong pillar in terms of our inbound and our content strategy. So we publish about 5 to 6 times a month on this. Typically through SoundCloud is the channel that we use, but we also share the recordings on our blog. In terms of numbers, we have about 35k listens to this a month, and that's growing really, really rapidly. It's one of our fastest growing editorial channels. Something that we're becoming really aware of as a team is that people consume content in different ways. So while our blog is really popular, some people don't like reading, they prefer listening. Perhaps they prefer watching content. And as we move into next year, looking at different ways to distribute our thoughts and into, I suppose, different mediums is going to be really, really important to us. We have books as well. We were hoping to have a book for everyone here tonight, but unfortunately FedEx let us down, so they may arrive next week. But we published 1 book a quarter, and again, talking about being aware of how we distribute this. We have hardback, we have ebooks, and then we also have audiobooks. So we're being very, very conscious of the fact that people consume content in different ways. This is the only form of gated content that we have. And the reason for that is that we feel if someone's going to download a book, it's obviously a very long form of content. It's a big commitment to read a book, at least in my opinion. I don't read as much as I should. That means that this person is likely a hot lead. They're very, very interested in Intercom, or at least they're beginning to be. And so far, we've had about upwards of 250,000 downloads of these. It's been a really, really strong acquisition channel for our team, and one of the strongest converting acquisition channels that we have as well. So those are really impressive numbers, at least I think, and I'm on the sales team, so I'm not tooting my own horn from an editorial standpoint. But unfortunately, when you look for advice on content marketing and inbound in terms of content, what you'll find on Google is lots of influencers who will tell you how to cheat the system. So I'm sure this is familiar. You get pages and pages of tips and tricks about how you can cheat search and SEO strategies, linking strategies. And as most of you are aware, this just doesn't work. Google changes their algorithm all the time. Therefore, if you're hacking your way to the top of search through your content, it can just drop off the face of the earth as soon as they update their algorithm. And on top of that, it doesn't make interesting content for people to read. So I'm sure everyone has at least once in their life come across or found an article or a piece of content on Google search that has ranked really highly, but when you start to read it, it makes no sense because there's links everywhere, there's keywords everywhere, and it's been produced to rank. So we do not consider that at all when it comes to our content and what we write and what we create. And the way that we think about content is that we need to create something that's really enticing, that people want to listen to, that people want to read, or that people want to watch. And when we think about that, we think that we're in competition with all of this amazing content that you could spend your time viewing or watching or listening to or reading. And, you know, would you rather read our blog or watch Stranger Things for 4 hours or 8 hours or watch the whole season in one go, which I did, and it's amazing. But that's what we need to think about, and that needs to be our North Star, because if our content isn't as good as this, you know, what's going to make you read what we have to say versus what the Duffer brothers have to say, or whatever they're called. So this has been really, really important to us, and it's what's made our content, in our opinion, be so successful, because we're not going to post things for the sake of it. We're only going to share great content that you're actually going to want to spend your time consuming. So we consider content, and then we think about how we market it. And as I said, typically when you research content marketing, it's done the other way around. So it's how do you create one long form article, change it into 2 Medium posts, 18 tweets, 1 LinkedIn post article, put $500 behind it and acquire 20,000 leads. Like, those are the types of strategies that you see when you Google content marketing. It's not the way to do it, and it's definitely not something that we would recommend, because success has come to us by looking at it in a completely different light. So, of course, that's all great, but we are a business at the end of the day, and all of this needs to convert and acquire leads for us. But we're very subtle in the way that we do that. So when you look at our content, particularly on our blog, what you'll see is obviously a simple subscription to our newsletter. We'll nurture you with content, hopefully bring you through the funnel to a stage where you're eventually interested enough in our products to speak with myself or with William. And then we'll also put in really kind of, I don't want to say sneaky, but contextual, more so, links to our gated content, and only when it makes sense. So this seems like a really simple thing to do, but it's very rarely done correctly. On most SaaS blogs, what you'll see is various links and CTAs to fill in a form and download an ebook, and they're very rarely contextualized, and that's really what we've put a big focus on, is that we only ever try and collect your details, convert you into a lead when it actually makes sense. And the good news is that although this is a different strategy to what most content or editorial teams take, it's that it actually works. So for the first 3 or 4 years of Intercom, we didn't have a formal sales or marketing team. There was no one who was dedicated to lead gen, demand gen, sales per se. You know, myself, Will, Stan weren't around at the time, and being able to use our content and our editorial as a lead gen and a sales engine for us was really, really successful, and it really got us to where we are today and continues to help us grow. This is a screenshot of our blog about 3 years ago. At the time, it was getting kind of upwards of 50k visits a month. So even back then, it was performing really, really strongly. And it's something that continues to grow over time as well. So in terms of what we've learned then, I've put together a few kind of guiding principles. If any of you are feeling really inspired after this talk and want to rehash your content or editorial strategy. So the first is that we put a big focus on what we call timeless content. And timeless content is content where you take your team together, find insights, and then share them with a wider audience. So it's informative and it's insightful. These are great examples of what it is not. So it's not creating an article about the top 5 implications of the new OS that Mac have released or that Apple have released. It's not about talking about Mark Zuckerberg and Oculus. It's not talking about your top takeaways from Dreamforce. These are things that anyone can write, and that's why everyone writes about them, because it's really, really easy to go to Dreamforce, write 5 things that you learned, and then share it. And everyone does it, and that's why you see so much content like this, excuse me. It's not interesting. It's not something that's going to bring people back. It's not going to teach them something. So I would say avoid that at all costs. And the great thing about focusing on timeless and evergreen content is that unlike any other form of marketing that starts to show diminishing returns over time, it's the only form of blogging or content marketing that will have a compound effect. So if you focus on this strategy, your blog or your content is likely to grow much faster because the content is relevant for a longer period of time. It'll actually start to be easier to manage as well, because you can take content from last year, refresh it a little bit, and it's still relevant. You don't need to write new pieces every time you want to post something. We often get asked, like, you publish a lot, how do you make the time for that? Or how do you have the time? And the answer is that we simply make the time, and then I typically get this. No one's making that face, so that's good news. But we obviously see this as a critical part of our business and our growth, and we find the time to fix bugs, write our product, we find the time to do conventional marketing, demand gen performance ads, landing pages. Therefore, if it's a critical part of your strategy, you need to find the time to do it. The third thing that we've learned is that this needs to be a group effort. And so what you'll typically see when it comes to content and blogs, definitely in the SaaS world, is that there'll be maybe 3 or 4 people within a company who produce content for the blog. Now, doing that means that you are limiting your audience, because you're limiting your blog and your content to the expertise of those 2 or 3 people. So this is a screenshot of a couple of people who have posted on our blog within the past month. As you can see, they're all different people. They're from all different levels in the company as well. So we had people who had been in the company for 2 weeks who were able to write a blog post on successfully onboarding a new hire, for example. And then we have Des, who has obviously been in the company since it's been founded. So you have this big mixing pot of opinions, and obviously that helps to diversify your content, but bring in a much larger audience as well. And then again, you're exposing different levels of expertise. So all of these people come from different backgrounds. Carrie's from sales, Jasmine's marketing, Dara's from support. They all have different insights, different things to share. Again, really, really important in terms of diversifying your content, reaching a wider audience. The other thing to bear in mind, again, is that while we post a lot, back in the day, 5-6 years ago, we probably only posted once a fortnight, once every 2 weeks, because we felt it was really important to be realistic with how much content we were posting. I always say it's better to post one great piece of content, whether it's a blog post, an audiobook, a webinar, whatever the case may be, once a month, rather than producing 4 or 5 really shitty pieces of content that no one's going to want to read, and more importantly, that are just going to add no credibility to your business. And then finally, we're a very opinionated bunch, which you've probably gotten the gist of from my presentation. But we feel that it's really, really important. If you're going to put your work out there, you're going to share your thoughts with your prospects, with your customers, it's really important to have an opinion. No one wants to read something that is, swaying in neither direction, is trying to suit a really broad audience. We share our thoughts on why we build our product in a certain way, why we design it in a certain way, why we're bringing the company in a certain direction. And while people disagree with that, what we found is that it really significantly drives the engagement on our posts. So whenever we have posts, particularly this one, everyone's talking about chatbots, but are they forgetting humans are pretty good too. You can completely agree or completely disagree with that. And that's what we want on our editorial. We want people to engage. We want their thoughts. And as well, it makes us think differently maybe about what we've said. So we want to hear other opinions. We want to hear what our customers have to say about us. And this has been really, really critical for us. So finally, I wanted to share a couple of tips around growth marketing. So all of this, really, really top of funnel stuff is great. It's really easy to do no matter what size your company is. As I said, we've been doing this from the day we were created. But there's a couple of other things we've added into the melting pot over the years that have had a really big impact in terms of our acquisition. These are all inbound, so free. I'm not going to talk you through AdWords strategies or anything like that. Spendesk are in the room?
Yeah.
Woo. So Spendesk are an Intercom customer. That's great. If you hit the Spendesk website and you click on their messenger, what you'll find is, I think there's a laser on this. Woo! You'll find this we run on Intercom button. We get a lot of traffic off this, a lot, and it actually converts into leads. And our reasoning for this is that people who are exposed to our really top of funnel content will recognize the messenger when they see it, and eventually they may be interested in clicking through and actually learning more about our product itself versus our opinions on it. Again, you'll see here that we pull in dynamic keyword insertion. We do that through our own CMS system, but a really, really powerful way to link the two, I suppose, the messenger with the landing page that we create. SEO, so we focus on SEO, particularly around competitor keywords, but something that we've started to do in the past couple of years, or the past couple of months more so, is we do a lot of research around what customers and prospects consider Intercom to be. So we talk about ourselves as a customer communications platform, but a lot of people may consider Intercom to be a chatbot, a live chat. There's different terminology for what we do, and we try and tap into that through SEO. So one of the examples that we have here is Olark versus Intercom. Olark are another live chat provider, and we try and intercept that traffic using competitor landing pages. So we'll benchmark the two products, we'll talk about the key differences, and then if you've been on that page for maybe 30 seconds, presumably you're consuming what we have to say, we'll hit you with what we call a visitor auto message, basically a pop-up from someone on our sales team, say, hey, are you interested in learning more about Intercom? I could run you through the key differences between Intercom and Olark. And again, this is a really, really strong acquisition channel for us. And when someone writes in here, they're directed straight to our sales team. And that's something we'll talk about in a few minutes. And then finally, we run events. We put a really big focus on events. We feel that they're really unique in our marketing mix because they're one of only marketing channels or strategies where you can take a big bunch of people, like 200-300 people, put them in a room and hopefully hold their attention for a really long period of time. You just can't do that with any other advertising or marketing strategy. So we run a world tour every year. This goes on for about 6 months. We visit upwards of 10 cities. This all sounds big production, big budget, but we did it when we were a small company as well. And this is, again, a really, really good generator of leads for us, because what we typically see is people within our community, people who read our blog, who are interested in what we do, will come to these, actually learn a little bit more about our product, become exposed to our sales team, and then hopefully start to take the conversation from there. So that's all great, and we've talked about lots of cool ways. I'll get back to you in a minute. Cool and interesting, innovative ways, maybe different ways to start generating leads. But what do we do with those leads once we actually capture them? How do we nurture them? How do we get them speaking to our sales team? More importantly, how do we convert them? And that's what Will's going to talk about.
My name's Will Holden. I've been at Intercom for almost 2 years now, and it's very nice to be in Paris. I've never been to Paris before. I come from a small town in England called Blackpool. And a fun fact about Blackpool is that it was actually recently voted the most depressing town in England by its own residents, believe it or not. Someone told me that. But I'm very happy to be here tonight. And I'm going to talk us through, get out of the way, inbound sales specifically. We're going to explore a little bit about outbound as well. We're going to share some tips, some ideas, and get creative. But I'm going to start with the story about where we came from and how we used to sell, how that's changing now. So when I first came to Intercom, we had a different VP and we had a different EMEA director of sales. And we had a few people come in from some pretty heavy SaaS enterprise backgrounds. And that reflected in the way that we sold to all of our customers. So our sales process quite some time ago was fairly indiscriminate. And we would sell to everybody in the same way. It didn't matter if you were a big business, a small business. We were just really happy to talk to you. And we'd throw resource at you and we'd sell to you and we'd give you demos. We'd have loads of discovery calls. It was really, really like resource heavy and quite expensive. But at the time, we didn't know any better. Now, we knew something wasn't quite right. As we started to scale and bring in additional heads, and people like Stan had to rationalize that to the rest of the business, questions were asked. And we had to start to think about, well, how do we optimize sales now at Intercom, and how do we get better at getting more out of the resources we have while still converting clients, ideally, at an even faster and better rate than before? So what we did was, we knew that small businesses, SMB, was an area we could optimize. We took a cross-section of those clients, and we thought, is there anything that we can understand from them? Can we characterize them in a certain way? Can we use that information to better detect them further up the funnel as they start to move in, to change our approach to how we sell? And we saw quite a few things. You guys will do this every day, every week. All of you, to a degree, will have an understanding of the types of customers you sell to, and you'll have built these customer profiles. We do that at Intercom too. And we found a few commonalities in this small business section. Many of our most successful small business clients had a similar number of web visitors. They were from similar industries. We could draw correlations there. Regions, whether or not they were B2B or B2C, all this became apparent. But one thing that really shocked us, really shocked us, was that our most successful small clients, and this wasn't an anomaly, they were those that we managed to respond to quickest. And this is a bit different because I come from an enterprise sales background primarily, right? And I want to get on the phone with you, and I want to sell to you guys. And potentially, if you're a small business, I'm going to waste your time. I'm going to get in your way, right? I'm going to stop you from realizing value and slow the sale down. And that's good when I'm working with Spotify. They need that level of consultation, but it's not good for small businesses like a lot of you guys are in the room, right? You need help and support, but you don't need someone like me to get in your way. So rapid response times and dealing with them, we'll discuss this in a second, through a messenger was actually really, really beneficial to their conversion rate, and it also, as we found, helped to improve our cost to sale. When we took that client profile, we took all those customers, okay, we found all these customers that look kind of similar, and then we applied that to our business at large, we found that we were spending about 80% of our time on 40% of our revenue. You guys will know it's pretty imbalanced, right? It's quite messed up. We weren't always this good. But we were quite unoptimized in the sales team, so we recognized this as something that we could really, really work on. So we went about developing then, or thinking about, how can we start to introduce a new process? How can we move time away from those customers but still sell to them really, really personally, and then put that time somewhere else, right? Potentially even more profitable area, without dropping the ball. So this was our previous sales process. These aren't very sexy slides. All the prospects would come in at the top. There's a big gap here we'll talk about in a second. We qualify them, and then we put them through that general indiscriminate sales process. It's quite expensive, okay? And we'd make some money out the bottom of it. What we've been doing more recently is, I think another speaker came in here to talk to you about this, and they talk you through a lot of big tools that they use. We don't use tons of tools to do this. We just use Clearbit, Alexa, and then we have some of our SDRs take a look at it, kind of semi-subjectively as well. But we take that criteria that we developed and we try and identify it up a funnel. And we say, do these customers fit that profile of client that I know I should be selling to that little bit more quickly, right? So we qualified them. And then those like Spotify or Ryanair or KLM, we sent in that direction. And those that needed to move a little bit quicker, we built a whole new process for, and this kind of sounds cool, but it's called real-time sales. It's a bit like it's a buzz phrase, isn't it? I'll talk about that in detail in a moment. I'm not just going to leave it hanging there. But we developed this new process whereby we started to sell to people that little bit more quickly. And we started to do what Stan said earlier on. We automated several areas of that sales funnel. And we began to free up rep time, but importantly, get out of our client's way in many stages. So what does that actually look like? I forgot to remove the arrows. So this is real-time sales. This is a basic overview, but we'll go into each section in a moment. Our previous sales cycle was about 35, 36 days. And you'd have a big range, right? There'd be outliers on either side. But on average, about 35, 36 days. We set ourselves a new target based off of that customer profile and what we'd seen happen before. We said we want to do it in 3 weeks. So we have a 2-week trial at Intercom. So it was our objective to respond to you rapidly, right? Capitalize upon that interest, get out of your own way, get you onto a trial as quickly as possible, as quickly as you want to. And then as soon as you're there, make sure that we're supporting you throughout that trial in some really creative ways that we'll show you in a second, ensuring that you are successful, enough so that you close. And we'll talk about this in a second, but how do we manage that post-sale or that handoff with other teams? A lot of you guys will be founders, right? You'll be thinking about bringing on sales teams or salespeople. Some of you probably have already done it. But you'll know that it is unsustainable to continue to deal with that prospect as an individual longer term. A lot of you will just be happy to talk to customers, but after 6, 12, 18 months, you'll find that those same customers still continue to talk to you because you just sold to them so good, right? You're just so great at selling. They keep on coming back to you. So what do we do here? And we'll dig into that in a second. Why does first response time for us matter so much? So if we dig into the data, we actually found that when we can respond to people in less than 1 hour, they were 28% more likely to actually close, right? 28% more likely to convert. That's huge. If we could just respond that a little bit more quickly. That's the difference between sort of 1 to 12 and 1 hour. So we knew this was super important. So what we've gone about doing is, when you come to our website now and we identify you to be one of those prospects that we might need to move quickly with, you'll start to talk with our team, right? Click that button, you'll begin to chat with us. This is a real chat that I started. I didn't tell our SDR team I was doing this. I just said, hey, I love your blog. How do I sign up for a trial? It's very idealistic. Not many people say that. But you'll see in a second, they actually respond within about, I think it's less than 10 seconds. That's been trained into that team, right? We've optimized ourselves towards that target now. Once that's happened, that's all well and good. We'll start to talk to you, but then how do we start to sell to you quickly as well? As soon as we begin that conversation, you guys will be familiar with this. We'll ask you some questions. We'll understand your business. We'll deliver some value up front. We'll share some ideas. And we'll get the juices flowing. And then maybe you'll say, this is super interesting. What do I do next? Where do I go from here? The SDR, sales development rep that had that chat, will then ping an AE, dealing with your full sales cycle, in Slack. And they'll say, hey, do your thing. Get involved. This is a real-time sale. And they'll make it super aware. And they'll assign it to you in Intercom. And they'll put it over to me. And now it's my objective and my goal to respond to them super quickly as well. It can be difficult. If I have to respond to everybody and write out passages of text for each one of the businesses I talk to, that can quickly overwhelm me, right? Especially if we're a lean business and we have to sell to some big customers too. So this is where it gets really interesting. We started to build and develop a ton of different video assets and templated messages that we could quickly personalize that still felt super friggin' personal. Right, really personal. That's a video from me, like saying, hello, I'm Will, I work at Intercom. I'm going to be working with you over the next 2 weeks if we start a trial. But it's something that I can send as a saved reply in Intercom in about 2 seconds. I just put in a different first name or maybe some extra detail. This is a really authentic, and I'd argue even more personal way to reach out to somebody than it was before. So we started to create a load of these video assets. Every one of our account executives and SDRs in Intercom now has a portfolio of GIFs and a portfolio of pre-made videos for different scenarios and situations. We're even starting to develop different videos for different industries and verticals and use cases. So if you're a fintech company and you come and talk to us, I'm going to send you that video with my bright pink shirt on. It's very attractive and you're going to see it, right? Catchy. And I'm going to talk to you about Monzo and TransferWise and all the other fintech businesses we're working with. I might not mention your name in that video, but that doesn't matter. I'm talking to you personally. I'm sending you a cool video that references your industry and even shares some ideas. So I've got your attention and I've done it really quickly. We then go about sending, and if you look at this text here, would you find it helpful if I sent over a deck that outlines the ways in which I think we could create value together? But the gist of it is, would you like it if I sent you over some information up front to help you get started on a trial? I'd love that. That'd be great. Ideally, they say. Megan, who's fantastic, came into our team and she brought with her a ton of ideas about how we could create these personalized, sort of templated decks. So we've gone about creating a series of decks, again, for different verticals and different use cases that we have in a repository that we can quickly pull up and personalize and then send to you up front. So instead of going back and forth and, oh, how do I do this? And, oh, great, you're ready. Oh, then another day later, well, what do I do about that? And then how do I install that code? And which products do I need? And what's the pricing? You'll find that buyers aren't often as informed as you want them to be. They won't ask you all the right questions up front. But if you're clever, you can answer them up front. You don't overwhelm them. You don't send them pages of information, but you can send them really nicely packaged information in a format similar to this to allow them, again, to keep on moving quickly and get into your product. So we personalize the deck in about 5-10 minutes and send that to them. As soon as they then begin their trial, it's our job to make sure that they're successful. And Stan referenced this earlier on, but when we say successful, we mean like product activated, right? If you have come to us with a marketing or onboarding use case, we're looking for you to use certain engage features at one of our products in an area, sticky features that then would ensure your continued interest and ideally your continued business with us. These messages, I'm sure many of you, and we do it still, and we used to do it a lot more, send today manually to all your customers. You'll take a look at your customer health dashboard. You'll have a look at who's doing what and who's used what features. And you might have a sales team that work in Salesforce or another sales CRM, and they'll go into that and go, oh, that deal I sold to last week that started their trial, they've still not done what I wanted them to do. I'll send them an email, or I'll call them up, right, and I'll talk to them. If they're a $200 or $150 a month deal to you or less, that can quickly get out of hand, and you can quickly become unprofitable. So we've done a very inherently Intercom thing, and we've created a bunch of messages, not through our education or marketing team, but through our sales team, that encourage you to find success as you move through our product. So we will welcome you to your trial. This is the equivalent of a salesperson saying, thanks for starting your trial. Bobby, I can't wait for you to be successful. Give me a call back. Let me know how it goes. As soon as you start your trial, we had that automated chat earlier on, you'll get a welcome message from us. As you begin to move through our product and do or don't use certain features or do certain things, you'll get follow-up messages, not checking in, not poking you, but offering you helpful advice about what to do next. So we're nurturing then our sales funnel, and we're slowly massaging them through that funnel, right, with the reduced human input, but we're still there, and we've still got that visibility, we've still created those segments, we can jump in when we need to. We'll move you all the way through that. One thing to point out here, we are selling to you and we're supporting you through our messenger, right? Not through phone call, not through demos, but we're through that same message that you came to use to talk to us. So we're keeping in that same channel that you started a conversation with us through, right? And that same place that you wanted to interact with us through. When it does come, and we spoke about this earlier, to finalising that deal or that trial finishing, it's really, really important, this was part of our optimization in this area, that we set fair and proper expectations as to what will happen next. When I first came to Intercom, I closed loads of deals in my first quarter. And that wasn't because I was really good, that's just because I had loads of time and I had nothing else to do. Right? So of course I closed lots of deals. I just spoke with everybody. And in my second quarter I closed a few less deals. In my third quarter even less. The average deal value of those deals increased. But as I continued to work at Intercom, my capacity to sell to new customers began to reduce because I was inheriting, right, this debt of clients that were dependent upon me. I'd sold to them. I was their point of contact. So we recognized actually it's really, really important in a personal way to sign off and to set expectations and introduce them to an account management team or a support team. Or if you don't have one, just your help center. And just set clear expectations up front. Sounds dead simple, but I didn't used to do it. I'm sure many of you don't as well. But just saying those words and letting them know what should happen next, so that as a founder, right, or a small business, you're not consistently overwhelmed with repeat requests, and you can go out and continue to sell. So we're doing that now through a message, but we're also doing it through a really personal video. So I've introduced myself to you. I said hello, and here's your trial, and very friendly, and then we've walked you through that trial and we've helped you to find success, and now that same person is going to sign off and set expectations with you and help tackle any final questions as well. I hope that my tone doesn't sound dismissive or passive. That's not the intention. We want to introduce ourselves to these customers. We want to embed ourselves in that trial process. We want to be there, but we want to make sure that we step away in the right way too, and we're doing it mainly through video now. What did this result in? So much room for activities. What that means is actually our SMB revenue last quarter, and I'll be honest with you, I won't share figures, Stan might hate me for this, but it wasn't growing rapidly or as fast as we'd like. Neither was enterprise in the upper end of the market. Last quarter, through introducing this strategy, our SMB revenue doubled. Right? The number of deals that we sold to within that pool doubled as well. We were literally managing far more throughput than ever before. I think we even had some attrition. There's maybe one less rep. Interestingly enough, enterprise and those big deals, that almost doubled as well. So not only did we well-oil that machine and optimize it and get better at managing those deals in that area, but we bought time back to put somewhere else. And that could be in enterprise deals, but it could just be in other areas of your business. So we found it to be quite successful up to now. And I'm going to talk to you guys about outbounding. Many of you will have to do this. As Megan's put content across, and it's something that you guys can do right away. But it might take you a few weeks or a few months to spin it up, right? Generate that audience. For now, a lot of you are reliant upon going out to market and finding new customers. We are increasingly having to do that at Intercom as well. We're not having to do it, but we want to do it because we know that over time it needs to become a sustainable source of revenue for us. And there are big logos and customers out there that we would just love to work with. So, Stan mentioned it. We are continuing to nurture and manage that lower end of the market. We're not rushing up market. We're not going after all those big enterprise companies and running stupid ads everywhere. But we are cherry picking and spearfishing, targeting accounts that we want to acquire. When we think about moving further into fintech, we think about who are the key players in fintech that we can outbound to and acquire to help bolster our inbound strategy and attract all those other guys towards us. So outbound's increasingly becoming really important at Intercom. When we thought about starting up outbound, we knew that we couldn't just do it in the same way that everyone else does, in the same way that I used to do it at other companies before. Now it had to be differentiated. It had to be true to our mission, right? So we developed these guiding principles. And a few of the things we said to ourselves, we said, we're not going to spam people. I don't care what pressure we come under, but we're never going to set a goal whereby we just have to send emails. It's not an activity-based metric that we want. It encourages, potentially, spamming. Rep needs to hit their email quota. They get spammy. Always why you, why now. This is a sales methodology, or an ideology, from a sales trainer called John Barrows. And this speaks to the idea that all your messages should be personal and contextual and relevant. If you don't have a good reason to reach out to somebody, don't fucking reach out to them. Right? Make sure that you know what you're saying to them and you have relevance and value to provide to them. Otherwise, we're back here. Maximum personalization, maximum contextualization, I think we get that. Use our own tools as much as possible. I think Prospect Tyro in the audience. You might use their tools. But we try and use our own tools as much as possible. We leverage video and we encourage really aggressive experimentation. We might not continue to do outbound forever, but we know when we do for now, we have to be creative and we have to try and find our own path. So what does that actually look like? And why is it an issue and why do we need to do that? This is Dez's inbox. Dez is very unhappy because Dez searched for a 15-minute call in his inbox and he pulled back all these emails. And that's just for that 15-minute call. And there are all these alligator emails and call for a coffee. There are all these other different tactics that people use, but this is just for one of them. His email is swamped. It can be really, really difficult to cut through that noise and cut through that crap, right? So how do we go about doing that? We take our guiding principles, we apply it to everything we do, and we follow a simple, maybe overly simplified strategy of account-based marketing, gathering data from that, using that then to fuel targeted and personal outreach, knowing who we should talk to, and then finally landing page engagement. All those messages and all that outreach isn't for nothing. Sorry, it's for nothing if you can't convert where it matters, when they click on that email or when they come to your site. We'll get into it. So we choose the accounts that we want to talk to. And I alluded to this earlier on. When we think about entering into a new space, we think about who are the players that we can use as logos, associate ourselves with, to help enter us into that market. So we select those accounts. More importantly, we select the roles within those companies and accounts that we would like to speak to, right? Either the roles of the decision makers themselves. We begin to then show them a series of ads. You guys will be familiar with this, right? We then send them through to a number of varied landing pages. We see what performs best, who clicks what. We optimize that over time, like many of you do. And this is something we're going to explore in a second, but then we trigger visitor automatic messages, for lack of a better way to put it, messages that pop up when you're on the website, that don't just say, hey, I'm here to help. Do you have any questions? Or, hey, would you like to ask me about pricing? But say, hey, you've seen these ads. Right? And I either know where you work or I know what you've been looking at. Would you like to talk to me a little bit more about how we can onboard users? Or would you like to discuss with me that support use case that you've been thinking about? We're not that explicit, but the point here is we'll show them ad copy, we'll make them aware, we'll nurture them for a period of time, and when we do come to engage them, it's not indiscriminate engagement, but it's engagement that actually references the journey that they've been on to increase the likelihood of a response. This would differ massively from more traditional marketing. Right, in that a lot of people would work with digital advertising and throw out a huge big net, they'd pull it back and they'd catch some fish. We're taking a really we do that to a degree with all of our inbound work, right? But with outbound, we're taking a super deliberate approach to who we want to go after. And we're working closer than ever with our demand generation and marketing teams. We can't afford to cast a big net outbound. We need to, instead of casting that net, take that spear and hunt that big fat fish that we want. So we're promoting engagement between marketing, demand generation, and sales. What happens is you'll see advertisements that reference use cases, right, that you may or may not be interested in. We'll show you a few. And then we start to see you engage with someone, and we'll show you more of those. When you do go ahead and actually click on one of those ads, instead of coming to our website, reading a bit, then leaving, and then getting remarketed to, we actually pop up with a video, right? or a message, something that again references that ad copy and that journey you've been on. We're going to share this with you afterwards, but we've found ways in Intercom now to link ABM to the messages that we send to you when you arrive at our page, allowing you to connect that copy to the message you send, or just actually write video content for the industry that you're advertising to. Now, you wouldn't send videos to every one of your visitors, it'd be a bit cumbersome and expensive, but you might send videos to all the fintech companies that you're advertising to, and you might talk about fintech in that video. If you do not click on one of those ads and you do not come through that channel, or maybe you do but you just don't go any further, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. We start to send you those personal emails. We keep it short, we use GIFs and videos in order to grab attention, and we include compelling and curious call to actions. Don't check it now, but you guys have this email in your inbox, or I hope most of you do. Bit of an introduction. I'm talking to a really famous mattress company here in the US. I'm referencing their industry, right? Why you? Why you now? I'm starting to talk about all the cool things they're doing, but even better, all the things I think we could do with them. I'm not telling them that we should work together. I'm not pushing ideas upon them, but I'm really curious and I think we can do great things. And I'm referencing that here, and I'm using third-party references as well to elicit and grab that attention. And this is the kicker. This is an email with Philip's name, right? This is expensive. You have to do this for everybody. You could just create one of these videos for an industry and then send it to 50 people, and that would work okay. But if you've got a really big account that you know you have to acquire, and this doesn't need to be just for outbound, this could be for a really complex inbound sale that you're managing over time, but we're sending them videos, referencing their name, encouraging them to click on them. And when they do, they come to our page, and I'll let this GIF restart in a second, but instead of triggering that generic VAM, personal but generic VAM that says, hey, do you need any help? I'm here to support you. It pops up and it auto-plays a video. And if we're really clever, we can actually put our product on your website, fake it, and show you what Intercom looks like for your business. And you guys can do this with your products, I'm sure, right? Many of you will have products that you could overlay on top of your clients' websites, right? Or you're able to mock up demo environments for really important clients and brand it all for them. And you can send them these videos, not pushing content to them or not sending it to them in the post, but encouraging them to come to your site, popping up with a video, delivering your value proposition up front here, inviting them for a call or encouraging them to write back to you. And all of this can be done today, and we'll share that with you after this. I have an Easter egg that I want to share with you. But before that, can you guys check your phones and your emails and just let me know if you got a mail from me? Yep. Everyone got one? Or most people did? Read the email, click on the video in the email. Click on the video, follow it through to our website, a message should pop up. When that message pops up, I want you all to start responding to that message. Click reply and start to talk to us. Now, hopefully, as that happens, has anyone responded yet? Okay, great. A few messages are coming in now. Perfect, several more. Is Megan there? Megan's going to respond to you in a second. I asked some of our SDRs to help out with this. They may have gone home already. But what's happening here is we've now taken, not marketing and demand gen, just doing an amazing job, but in many ways there's a big disconnect between marketing, dem gen, and then sales, right? They say, hey, we've got all this traffic and all this awareness and all these clicks. Salespeople don't care about that. Salespeople want this. So we found a way now to take ads, put them in front of people, encourage interaction, and when you do interact, you feed them into that real-time sales process. So all your messages are coming in here now, and it is the intention of our team to respond to you extremely quickly, just like we discussed before now. Right? You fed into not some attribution report. You're not held in Looker or a BI tool. I don't need to export it and send it to a team. Your intent is immediately captured, and you're immediately placed in touch with an SDR or an AE team. I thought you guys might find that exciting. The final Easter egg I wanted to share with you. So these ideas, and the idea of selling through video in Intercom and finding cool ways to automate our approach to sales prospects to make better use of our time and theirs, our product team have been taking a look at this as well. So I've been putting video in these messages, the whole team has been doing it, But now we're actually starting to release new video formats within Intercom. So instead of embedding a video in a message, we're allowing you to record it directly within Intercom and launch a borderless, this is a bit wrong, a borderless video on your website. So you could take your phone or your desktop and you could say, hey, Philip, thanks so much for checking out the email. I'm so happy that you've come to my site. If you'd like to learn more about what we do, just start talking to me below. This is available in closed beta right now, but for every one of you in the room, and we'll follow up, we're going to give you access if you want it. So if you guys are experimenting with outbound and you're looking for new and creative ways to reach out to people, we'll show you how to send those emails, and then we'll make access available to these sorts of new formats that we're working on now. And feedback's super important, so we want you guys to test it with us. That's it. I hope that helps, guys. Thank you for letting me share some ideas.
So thank you very much for your attention. So before we jump into the Q&A, so 3 things that we really want you to take away from this session is, one, please focus on speed, really tweak and optimize your sales velocity. Don't use industry benchmark, you need to identify your own KPIs. Try to identify what works for you and identify where you become profitable in terms of what's the perfect cost of sales in terms of acquisition. Please use personal automation, so onboarding and retention is key. Find the right balance also in terms of like building a very healthy product stack, something that is not over expensive. Try to think also about smart marketing automation in order to guide your user, in order to use all the key features of your product. But one thing, make sure that you use your sales team and your marketing team to put them in front of people. We hear a lot of people in the industry telling that you need to use this super complex product stack and you need to use this super complex army of chatbots. Everything will be fed into your system and you just have to sit back and relax. This is not true. We tried and we believe that the right balance is finding the right equilibrium between automation and human. And finally, focus on building a community. So it's a bit time-consuming. It is expensive, but it will pay down the line. So make sure that you explain to people why you're building your product and why it's important and why you're trying to solve a big problem. Don't try to push features onto them. So thank you very much. We're going to now start a Q&A. So